Welcome, everyone, to the Planet MicroCap Showcase Virtual 2022. I'm your host, Robert Kraft. And now presenting is the team from AgriFORCE. It's a publicly traded company. The symbol is AGRI on NASDAQ. From the AgriFORCE team, we have CEO Ingo Mueller, as well as President Brands Mauro Pinella. Mauro and Ingo, take it away.
Bob, thank you. Pleasure to be here and tell you a little bit about our business, AgriFORCE. Maybe we can start by really focusing on the drivers behind our business. I think, when we look at the landscape in which we operate, there's a number of forces that are really driving what we're doing as a business. First and foremost, it's all about the consumers. Consumers are really now more and more focused on not only where their food comes from, but also how it's produced. They're looking for sustainably produced, nutritious food. And that's becoming increasingly more difficult for farmers or cultivators to achieve. They too are trying to meet the consumers' needs, but they're being burdened not only by environmental factors, climate change, for example, of course, but also government regulations. The governments are starting now to look at forms of farming from whether that's outdoor or indoor, and they're starting to look at proposed legislation around water consumption and energy consumption. So those are really important drivers that we look at and really are the fundamental elements that drive our vision. When we think about our business, we like to say that our purpose is to positively transform farm, food, and family every day, everywhere. And to do that, we have a vision to be a world leader in delivering next generation food and plant products through advanced ag tech solutions. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in our 4 pillars. And so when we think about achieving that very sort of strong statement, we see our ability to do that driven by IP, intellectual property, and know-how. We think they're at the core of or should be and is at the very core of what we do. Because at the end of the day, agriculture is still a commodity-based business. In order to achieve better outcomes, higher margins, better returns for shareholders, we really need to find ways that make us unique and offer a unique value proposition for both our customers, but also ultimately our investors. So our focus is and always will be on IP. So when you think about our business, we really look at it as a two-legged stool. On one side, we have what we call AgriFORCE Solutions. And that's the side of our business that's really focused on producing crops more sustainably and producing crops that are better for you. On the other side of the business, we have AgriFORCE Brands, which is really taking those crops and either delivering them straight to consumers or conversely, turning those crops into ingredients that then are turned into better for you food-based or plant-based products. So when we think about how we achieve that, I'm going to hand it over to Mauro Pinella, who's going to talk a little bit about our AgTech 2.0 platform and how we then tie knowledge and our other disciplines within our business into our solutions side of our business.
Thank you, Ingo. So the way to look at AgriFORCE Solutions is that we're trying to create an integrated AgTech 2.0. And it's really a 360 approach, which is aimed at augmenting the consulting arm that is Delphi at the forefront of our AgTech knowledge and IP innovation, and then supplying advanced facility and AgTech platform solutions and driving cross-selling. When we look first and foremost at Delphi, which is an acquisition in progress, they are basically an international company with 200 employees in 12 countries. They have 9,000 customers around the world, and also state-of-the-art R&D greenhouses and field for ag research. And what they do really is to drive their, through decades of experience and established customer base, a deep industry knowledge of practice in agriculture and horticulture, knowledge implementation, and through their innovation center, they're really able to help their customers try advances in cultivation, crop optimization, automation, or AI, or even lighting. And they work, as consultants for turnkey projects or feasibility assessment, or even are asked to help operate, some of those facilities in some countries. They also have got a number of substantial growth opportunities, and the goal is really to double, the business over the next 4 to 5 years. First and foremost, through geographic expansion. They are quite strong around the world, but really, we see the next level of growth coming in North America specifically, and also penetrating better in some areas in Asia, and especially Central Asia, Middle East, and so on. The second element, of growth is their core consulting revenue. Is moving from just an element of base fees to actually monetize more than trainings and events, the training of the new growing groups, and through their regional practical schools, but also get into a more result-based consulting model where they really partake also in the upside. They have also a digital platform called QMS. And what it is really, it's the plant computer. It's the only company that at the moment really look at the knowledge about the plant and how it should drive the strategy for the growers, both in a CEA environment or in field ag. And this actually is where we see the value of maximizing it and consulting the practical advice with the data that we gather around the field and greenhouses to actually expand and scale up. The second piece is that we have in our platforms is the grow house proprietary facilities, and really that is really the core of AgriFORCE IP. A proprietary facility design, which is an environmentally friendly and clean form of growing high-value crops. It has unique benefits. The unique bulk building structure is first of all built differently than the typical A-frames that you would see in most greenhouses. It is actually a tensile structure, like a tent, that really allows, through the fact that it's kept together through this tensile structure and those poles and cables, it actually helped gain about 30% of the growing surface within the greenhouse. And secondly, the proprietary envelope is actually made of specific and proprietary material that actually allows to harness the power of the sun. It allows to basically get both the full spectrum of light as well as the majority of all the UV light. And that is what is really needed for the growth of the plant, and importantly, for really allowing the plant to achieve its full genetic potential in terms of the growth, taste, smell, and other elements for it. And compared to regular greenhouses that are in glass, they only allow 70% of the light through, as well as only half of the UV. And while plastic basically only 50% of the light spectrum through and none of the UV. The second element that this structure allows us, it allows us to create a tent within a tent, and that these two proprietary envelopes are separated by about 30 inches. That cavity of 30 inches, we fill it with a proprietary foam, that water-based foam that allows to basically for every inch that we fill to achieve an R1 insulation value. So nominally, our facilities can achieve an R30 in comparison to a house or a building that can only achieve R22. It allows us to operate in much colder and much warmer environment. Therefore, achieving a much wider geographic spread of those opportunities. And finally, the whole element is actually completely closed in, that allows also to basically drive a much cleaner and much more EU GMP pharma grade standard, which is particularly good for high value crops. And I'll let it to Ingo.
So when we think about our facility and the opportunities it creates, it allows us to outperform any other available technology for high value crops, as Mauro indicated. So we provide not only what we believe to be best in class yields, but also best in class quality. And as a result, we've been able to secure a couple of commercial contracts that we've announced, one of which we've announced, a couple of which are in process, and I'll speak to those in a second. So the first contract we announced was to build a facility in Barbados. We're in the process now of looking at different site locations. We're also working with the government with respect to a potential second facility, which would be to address some of the challenges of food production in Barbados. And we think Barbados is actually a really interesting proxy for other locations where there is very poor soil quality and not a lot of alternatives for, call it low-tech farming. Beyond that, we recently announced the acquisition of a property in Coachella, California. Our intention is to build multiple facilities on that property, and we look to other markets beyond that after we've constructed our facilities. And when we think about that, we're looking at Eastern Europe as being a logical location where you see a lot of sort of pharma production, cannabis production, etc. And then we see Europe and the Middle East being fertile markets for this technology going forward.
In terms of other parts of our pillars, I mean, of AgTech, of the AgTech platform that we're looking at, I mean, one of the acquisition in progress also is the Roots. And with the Roots, I mean, we aim to become a major player in the tissue culture and young plant market. It's a 42-year-old company, one of the most advanced biotech tissue culture and young plant companies in the world. They have revenues of around $40 million, with a growth rate that has been exceeding 10% per year, normalized EBITDA around 15%. But importantly, what they do is that they sell more than 50 million plants per year, and in Europe, Asia, USA, and Africa, and have about 800 employees, and operate about 2.1 million square feet in greenhouses with 4 R&D labs. But the key piece, I mean, of growth that we see behind the Roots is that they have developed a plantation crop IP in rubber, oil palm, and bananas that are rooted in sustainability, that ideally position them to capture a significant share of the combined global markets for these key land-restricted crops that total over 2.5 billion in market size. And it is estimated at the moment that this IP has got circa 10 years advantage versus competition. They've already in rubber advanced quite well in terms of planted trials across China, Africa, and Southeast Asia. They are at the point, I mean, where they are in advanced discussion with Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand, which represent about more than 2/3 of the world production, as well as one of the major tire manufacturer for their plantations in South America. And what they do, I mean, with those new rubber plants is that they yield about 50% more than competitive trees. And the tree mature 1.5 years faster. So in 3.5 years instead of 5. And that provides a more sustainable proposition in a restricted land use. So you can produce more, or you can actually reforest instead. And the same thing they're doing on oil palm, which is, again, their plants are estimated to provide 170% more yield over the lifetime of the tree. And we know that oil palm produces 3 times more oil per hectare than any of the closest competitor like sunflower. And they're also in the same position about a year after to basically start, I mean, planting and populating the markets of Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. And then finally on banana, they have a license deal with the IITA, which they can replicate the complete banana germplasm worldwide. Again, each of those markets are between 800 and $1 billion annually in terms of replanting. So we see that over time, I mean, the roost can grow quite dramatically. And then finally, we see that also through the, bringing also Delphi under our wing, there's improved operation that we can help the roost with through efficiency gains by automation, IT, supply chain improvement, and improved yield in their greenhouses. Another area of our pillars in AgTech is AgriFORCE and Radical Clean Solutions. And basically, it's a patent pending system that seeks out and destroys airborne and surface-based virus, bacteria, and molds, and as well as odors, and so on. I mean, all types of VOCs. It basically neutralizes 99.999% of the tested pathogen. It is absolutely safe for human, pets, and plants. And actually, it's the only solution that eliminates naturally viruses and bacteria and molds and VOC virtually anywhere. And we will have solutions that are designed to adapt to any need, both engineered solutions, I mean, to go within, manufacturing plants, food manufacturing, as well as CEA air circulation system, as well as commercial portable units or air curtain units, but even the truck units that allow us to potentially put them in the whole supply chain of fresh produce and others, allowing to potentially improve the whole ability to take care, to drive freshness for a longer time. Ingo?
So when we think about AgTech and the market that exists today, we see a lot of opportunities primarily focused in Europe. Europe has really been the hotbed of AgTech really over the past 100 years, and primarily in the Netherlands, where really the introduction of greenhouse technology and then subsequent innovations around greenhouse technology have all taken place. So it is the equivalent of the Silicon Valley of AgTech. So we spend a lot of time focusing our energy on identifying existing businesses that have been very active for many, many years, in most cases, decades. In order to successfully go after that market, we've opened an office in Rotterdam, the Netherlands, well over a year ago. And it's led by a gentleman named Gideon de Hager. Gideon is a very well-respected AgTech veteran. He used to be principal and CEO of a company called Kadima Systems, which was the preeminent automation business for greenhouses in the world. And he has led our endeavors to identify companies that not only have a strong revenue base, but also a solid EBITDA base. And so we've been actively pursuing what we call our 4-pillar strategy, which are the elements we think are really essential to driving our narrative of sustainability and nutrition. So obviously, we've talked a little bit about Radical, we've talked about Delphi and the knowledge, we've talked about DeRoos, which fits into our micropropagation and genetics and tissue culture business. But we also have other companies in our funnel that we're talking to in these other areas that you see here in front of you. And we expect that over time, we'll be able to continue to deliver businesses with robust top lines and also robust EBITDA that we can then lever to build out our platform going forward. Mauro, if I can hand it back to you.
The second part of our business is really AgriFORCE brand. And what AgriFORCE brand is, as you look at solutions to really create the best, healthier, and most vibrant plants and foods, AgriFORCE brand really kind of looks at processing and in providing to consumers and customers solutions that challenge the norms. And we look at both, a B2C as well, a B2B type of business, and it's really about ingredients, plant and food products. And the first inroad in this is our Unthink food platforms, which is really a high fiber, high protein, and low carb grains that we have done it through the acquisition of a patent now allowed technology that naturally processes and converts grain, pulses, and root vegetables. And what it does is that it takes, for example, grain like wheat and allows us to get a big flour product that is very low in starch and sugars, but very high in protein, up to 30 to 40 times more fibers, up to 3 times more proteins, and less than 15% of the starch that you would find in regular all-purpose baking flour. And that is really, what at the end of the day, what consumer wants, because it does taste and perform the same in baked goods, but consumers really want, first and foremost, proteins, fibers, less starch, and they want a taste that performs. So our first focus has been to do it on wheat. While we can do it on most type of grains as well as pulses, and we will have, in the future, plans to actually do it after peas and beans and other elements. Wheat represents 20% of the worldwide caloric consumption. It's also our wheat flour has got clear nutritional advantages versus, the mainstream flours. And our products, really want to provide consumers, with a branded premium product as well as ingredients for customers that address their needs without the need to compromise. Over the past year, in 2022, we've been really finalizing our brand consumer platforms, the claims, as well as starting to develop our R&D, for the products that will hit the markets in the subsequent years. And over the past, 6 months specifically, we have been putting together a system to start bringing, the first manufacturing capability to start bringing our first products to the market. And then next summer, we will actually continue by bringing, the advanced flours and continue basically the national launch. Unthink, really will have a dual B2C and B2B commercial approach. It's first and foremost a brand for consumers that allows us to establish the visibility and claim. But at the end, it's going to be really a premium branded ingredient for bakeries, snacks, bread dough manufacturers, and so on. Think the Unthink inside. And we can really kind of cover, the majority of the key markets, key categories, from premium consumer flours to pancake waffle mix to pasta, pizza, or crust, or even snacks. And the beauty of the process is that it actually doesn't lose anything. We recuperate a liquid which is high in high complex sugars that we can use as a power juice for application as base for drinks, or even, as we're finding out, as a speeding enhancer in the process of dough rising that could help, manufacturer to actually speed up their whole manufacturing process. And finally, AgriFORCE is really an ESG investment opportunity. This is at the core of everything we do to positively transform farm, food, and family every day, everywhere. We do it through 4 key pillars. Smart and sustainable farming, that is where Delphi and our consulting area comes in, as well as the grow house, in a way that actually helps to drive more sustainable and smarter way of growing plants and foods. Resource efficient operations, through the grow house design and the building IP, but also through improved plant growth IP, and the fact that through the QMS digital system, of Delphi, it really helps, to maximize the yields as well as help the growers, to drive costs down. And finally, it's about smart and good plants and foods, and that's where Unthink really is at the core, where we really want to change the game, of what regular ingredients are. And finally, it's about thriving communities, where we, through Unthink Food, we want to have an impact on nutrition, where we'll partner with a nutritional fellow medical research to really understand the impact on diabetes and obesity over time. But also our grow house, due to its design, allows us to operate in very ag-friendly climates. Both very hot or very cold, which really can bring, fresh produce, grows and high-value plants everywhere. Ingo?
So in summary, we believe that we're really creating something unique and different, a disruptive, integrated business model for AgTech 2.0. And as I said at the beginning, everything we do is centered around IP and knowledge. We think that is really the key to driving our mandate of sustainable production of nutritious or better for you foods. And in doing so, we're really unlocking the value in plant and food systems from seed to table. And hopefully we've been able to articulate to you how we see that coming together. So our business model is all about aggressive M&A to start, but then really growing the organic elements of our business and IP and knowledge base that we've acquired. And we really see a tremendous opportunity in front of us to do something that's really unique and different and really deliver value to shareholders. I really appreciate you guys listening in today, and we look forward to you following us and hopefully seeing us deliver on what we've talked about today.
Very good. Thank you both very much for your presentation here today. I just had a couple questions to follow up. My first question, and both of you can take a stab at this if you'd like, but I guess I'll start with you, Ingo. Right now we're managing through tough markets. So what measures is the company taking to manage macroeconomic pressures currently affecting most microcap companies across the board?
Well, I think, you'd like to be able to do everything. And certainly we have a lot on our plate. So we have to be very, cognizant of where we deliver the most value, and how we do that, most quickly. Obviously, shareholders want to know that, the dollars in are generating dollars out, so to speak. So, we're reprioritizing around what we're doing. It hasn't slowed down our M&A work, although our profile of targets has changed a little bit, where perhaps we would have been a little more aggressive around risk profile of targets. We're now more focused on revenue and earnings profiles. So, that sort of changes the dynamic in terms of timing. And then, we are also very focused on ensuring that our Unthink business really gets a good, solid launch in the marketplace. So again, that's just about prioritization. So, money is there and available, but I think investors want to see that you're good stewards of that money and you're really thinking through the value proposition of how that money's deployed.
Absolutely. So you actually just hit on my next question, and this one is for Mauro, having to do with the launch of Unthink and the products within that brand itself. As you said, you targeted for 2023. What's some of the marketing strategy that you're looking to deploy to really push this new product forward?
Yeah. So as we're ready to basically open up, the market to some of our products, and we will cut it in two. We're first going to bring a series of products and really targeted and focusing first on bakeries and I would say the users, of flours, to make it finished products. That will be our focus one. Very shortly followed by some direct to consumers visibility to allow consumers to also try the product, do it at home with very specific recipes. It will be a little bit on organic growth. So we will actually grow, develop also our manufacturing capability as we go. And the beauty of it is that we will do it in pods. So we will not try to kind of create those major production areas, but actually more regional areas that allows us, to use partners for that. And also to build as we grow. So you'll see first and foremost, Unthink flour, to bakeries. And then sometimes, in the first couple of months of 2023, you will start seeing, more towards consumer and a direct to consumer approach.
Absolutely. You actually mentioned that in the presentation that there was recently, or I guess it's in December, you're doing the pilot programs for the flour. Correct me.
Yeah, we're okay. Just in the moment doing some tests about our first version of the flour, and we're finalizing this next couple of weeks. So by doing that allows us to basically decide when to commercialize it.
Absolutely. And if you don't mind, my final question for you guys, what do those pilot programs look like? Are you going to local bakeries or going to some some social media influencers? And
so right now, most business to business. So it's about, getting the product to some bakeries. Have them really drive the product and understand also, get us the learnings, how to best apply it, while at the same time, from an R&D standpoint, we're developing some more finished products that we will start exposing to consumers little by little, and then also to potential retailers or manufacturers for that. I mean, eventually what we hope is that our flour will be ubiquitous to actually high nutrition for wheat. And then we'll start rolling down the other products. I mean, from oats and rice to potentially peas, and look at also how to really create more naturally derived, concentrated proteins out of those pulses. And that's going to be over the next 2 to 3 years, we will go there. But yes, and as we then go into the more national or multi-regional type of launch, we look to actually have some more influencer driven marketing, and importantly, potentially even some pop-ups appearing in some cities.
Very good. All right, guys. Well, I think we're there. So Mauro, Ingo, thank you very much for your presentation today, and really appreciate everybody tuning in. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
Super. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.